Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Life Show. I'm your host, Ian Hartitz. It is a great day to be great, and it's a great day to break down some of the key battles that we are monitoring here ahead of training camp. Football's back, baby. Keep that head on a swivel and be careful out there because we got some folks spreading some misinformation, pointing out some highlights that happened years ago. Maybe I'm doing that, but it's fun either way. So football in the air, and what better guest to have accordingly than the one, the only, the godfather of guillotine fantasy himself, Paul Charchian, coming from Utah. What's up, Charch?
Hey. You and I haven't talked in 6 months. Yeah. And in that time, they forced me to leave Minnesota. Something about a restraining order. I got to be 4 states away. So yeah, now in the warmer weather of Utah, and excited to be back with you, Ian. It's been too long, my man.
I know, brother. It hasn't stopped us from getting some drafts in together. You've actually introduced me to Empire Dynasty Leagues. Yes. We're in a draft right now. Continues to be ongoing. For those that have never heard of the concept, very cool, Charch. I'm not sure if you came up with this yourself, if you've just been playing, but basically, guys, it's a 15-year-ish commitment, depending on what you want to do. And the thing is, if you win 2 years in a row and you're the Empire, the league's done. It's over. I love it, Charch.
Yeah, it's the Empire League is, I think, kind of brilliant. It's the best way to play Dynasty. This is for Dynasty owners that want to go like one level above regular Dynasty. Every year, instead of paying out your winners the entire pot, you save half of the pot and you roll it forward, waiting for somebody to win back-to-back years. And then when that happens, they win that year's money. They win the rolling pot and the league disbands. It's over. You have a true champion. What I love about the Empire League, Ian, normally in every other format, all you have is the most recent champion. Ian won last year in our league. That's it. In an Empire League, you have the total champion. You have a real champion. The league dissolves. That's how big your champion was. So that's what I love about the Empire League. If at the end of 15 years, there isn't a winner, we're going to split up the money, because at that point, like 1/3 of us are probably going to be dead. And so it's probably makes sense, at that point. So at that point, you probably split it up. But yeah, Empire League, super, super fun. We should someday, Ian, let's do just like a whole show on Empire Leagues. Let's talk about the drafting strategies, how you construct your team. I think we should have an Empire show one day.
Hey, I'm down, man. The funniest, it could be really sad, but one funny part of this is we have this actual long document of rules where literally it clarifies that, if you are the owner and you die, you might have it in your will to see where the team goes to, or if not, the other managers can go ahead and pull together. It reminded me of the league show back in the day. Ruxin had a stroke and was in the hospital, and they were trying to figure out how to set his lineup. The most important things, of course, in life that you need to figure out. But we're going to save the Empire talk for another day. Charles, time to give me some guillotine talk. We're actually talking the DraftKings opening lines, breaking down some of the toughest schedules in fantasy football ahead of September. All right, guys, another, more unique form of fantasy football, Guillotine Leagues. Hopefully you guys already know what it is. If not, basically, you start off with an 18-team league. Hopefully, each week the lowest scoring team gets chopped. They are dead in the water. Your season is over. Makes for some incredible waiver wires. I'm a huge fan of this league format. We invite you to go ahead and play. You can find out more information on fantasylife.com. But, Charge, because of, again, every single week being your season, if you lose, you're done, scheduling and just playing to the strengths of it is very important. You do not want to take chances on guys who have a real tough opening stretch in September, because you're not playing for December. You are literally playing for just that very next week. So you had an article go up on fantasylife.com breaking down 3 very concerning schedules specifically for stars that people might otherwise want to get into. So again, even if you're not into guillotine, we can at least go into some of these really tough starts. Kicking things off with one Travis Kelce, who, maybe wasn't his usual monster self last year, but still the tight end 6 in PPR points per game. Still someone that's going to be starting in leagues of all shapes and sizes. That said, Church, not looking too good for him in September.
Nope, this is a really tricky September. 35 years old. The drop-off in performance was tangible last year, presumably not going to get better at age 35. And again, this is not just for Guillotine Leagues, but I'll note this. In Guillotine Leagues, Travis Kelce was the most chopped tight end the entire year. He had more chops than any other tight end. Now, compounding matters for Kelce. for the first time in years, Patrick Mahomes got a surplus of viable receiving talent, or so it seems anyway. Xavier Worthy came on really well at the end of last year. Hollywood Brown shockingly integrated into that offense when he came back from his injury at the end of the year. Rashee Rice, once he gets his suspension squared away, and then even rookies like Jalen Royals could have a factor. Brashard Smith can catch. I mean, there is a very real chance Travis Kelce's target volume drops significantly this coming season, and then there's a schedule. So he opens with the Chargers, Ian. They allowed a league-low 2 touchdowns to the tight end position last year. Then week 2, the Eagles. In the Super Bowl, the Eagles held Kelce to 3 catches, 39 yards, and in the fourth quarter, they weren't even trying to stop the Chiefs anymore. And then week 3 is the Giants. That sounds like a reprieve, but like the one thing the Giants could do last year was slow the tight end position. No tight end topped 62 yards against the Giants all of last year. And then week 4, Kelce's got to face the Ravens. For the season, the Ravens were a middle-of-the-pack tight end defense, but they got a ton better as the season went on. Week 9 forward, the Ravens only allowed per-game averages of 4.5 catches, 39 yards, and 0.4 touchdowns per game to the entire tight end position. So for Kelce, that opening stretch of September, really, really tricky. Whether you're playing Guillotine, you're playing regular fantasy football, nobody wants to start slow. And I think Kelce's a guy you could safely avoid and maybe trade for after these first 4 weeks.
Ravens made some serious additions to that secondary throughout the offseason as well. So even though, again, based on 2024 numbers, not looking like the stiffest test, once we do start really getting into the defensive with 2025, you can see just that. Did want to share with you guys some strength and schedule grids I put together. And again, I understand we are using 2024 numbers here, so you can take it with a bit of grain of salt. But for situations like strength of schedule, I do like to focus more so on the extremes. And yes, Chiefs, Buccaneers, and Packers really going to have a tough go of things to start. Meanwhile, up there at the top, the Patriots, Vikings, and Eagles should have a fairly easy schedule at the tight end position. Especially wonder if TJ Hawkinson, someone who maybe could benefit from that Jordan Addison potential early season suspension, could be a diamond, not in the rough because he is going up pretty high already in drafts, but could really put together some big games for you guys. So that's Travis Kelce, who we have the biggest problem with at tight end. Charge. Want to talk about someone who I know this must have pained you to write about because you were one of the biggest Bucky Irving fans I know out here, but unfortunately, man, could be a tough start to the season for the reigning, just stud running back.
Yeah, I love Bucky Irving. I honestly believe he's the most talented runner in the league right now. And that's, maybe I'm going to be proven wrong by that. Add in a really tough schedule with the loss of Tristan Wirfs for likely the beginning, most of September. That's going to be a big loss. We don't know if there's going to take time for Josh Grizzard, the new offensive coordinator, to sort of get into the flow of this offense as well. And then a tricky schedule. Falcons week 1, they didn't allow a 100-yard rusher all year. Week 2, Houston, they allowed the 6th fewest fantasy points to runners. Then you get the Jets. That's something of a reprieve, a middle-of-the-pack run defense. And then you get the Eagles. Obviously, Jordan Davis up the middle. That's all but impossible to run on that team. It's really, really tricky. They rank number 1 in fantasy points allowed. So Bucky Irving, as much as I love him and as talented as I think he is, could be sitting on a slower start than expected.
And remember, guys, it's Guillotine League. So it's not like if you're passing up Bucky Irving, you're saying, I'm not going to have you on my team all year. You're just letting someone else probably take the tougher weeks for him. Hopefully then you have your chance to get him on the old waiver wire. Similar sentiment for our next and last player charge, CeeDee Lamb, someone where, again, is going to be going in first rounds of all shapes and sizes. And he should, that said, in Guillotine, maybe let someone else draft him and deal with these first 4, maybe even 5 weeks.
Yep, we love CeeDee Lamb too. Awesome player, right? And this is a brutal start to the season, including week 5. His tough stretch, really 5 weeks long. So Philadelphia to open with. Once Cooper DeJean got in the starting lineup, that was arguably the league's best secondary. Week 6 forward. Then week 2, you get the Giants. That's a semi-competent pass defense. Then week 3, you get the Bears. No team allowed fewer targets or receptions to wide receivers than the Bears. That hurts CeeDee Lamb. Week 4 is Green Bay. Packers secondary. Better without Jair Alexander. Addition by subtraction. Not using him. They gave up the 5th fewest touchdown passes to wide receivers last year. And that is your extra bonus. Week 5. Sauce Gardner erases half of the field. And as a team, the Jets allowed the 2nd fewest wide receiver touchdowns. So just a really, really tricky start to the season, unfortunately, for CeeDee Lamb.
Again, invite you guys to check out Charch's full article on the topic. You can check out my conditionally formatted charts, just super advanced Excel stuff over with my Twitter, and also our fancy dancy tool over at fantasylife.com, our strength of schedule grid. Again, this is looking at the entire season. You can see specifically the fantasy points allowed and exactly who is going to be at top and who is going to be at the bottom. So good stuff there. Again, guys, this has been our DraftKings opening lines. The MLB season is heating up and the excitement is building with the league's biggest stars stepping up to the plate. Every home run, strikeout, and walk-off win could be unforgettable. Check out DraftKings Pick 6, the exciting new way to play daily fantasy sports. All new customers who play just $5 will score $50 in bonus picks, perfect for riding the highs of every game. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and sign up with code FANTASYLIFE to claim your offer. Only on DraftKings Pick 6, the crown is yours. All right, guys, we have about a month and a half separating us between week one, which means training camp battles, preseason action, that much more are going to be, causing us to adjust those ranks and just make us rethink everything we think we know about fantasy football. So Charch and I are here today to give you guys 12 key training camp battles that, again, are going to make a big difference in how we are evaluating the league between now and September 4th. So, Charch, we're going to start off with some pretty sad quarterback battles, okay? Every once in a while we get, this upstart rookie, this proven veteran. It becomes like good theater and everything. Not exactly what we're dealing with today. First things first, though, in Indianapolis, Daniel Jones versus Anthony Richardson. Fun fact, out of all the quarterbacks over these past 2 seasons, I think I did a minimum 16 starts. These are the 2 worst in terms of passer rating. So, yes, that is sometimes a stat that encompasses more of the offense, but Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson, do either of these guys get you very excited, Church?
No. We are watching the training camp battle, and I will be adjusting my rankings in like the 30s at quarterback. I'm here to make the unpopular case for Daniel Jones. I'm the one person who wants Daniel Jones to win this thing, I think. Richardson on pace to be the worst passer in quarterback history if he continues to play at the rate that he's been. The 48% completions last year. The ratio of touchdowns to interceptions, 8 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. Yet that's so hard to do in today's NFL. So if Gene Clemens were here, this would be a different conversation, as you know, Ian. But in fairness to Gene, he suffered some semi-permanent vision damage for something that he did repeatedly at age 14 and 15 and 16 and 17. And I got to believe that is a lot of why Gene loves Anthony Richardson so much. But let me ask you this. Are you going to be starting Anthony Richardson the next time? Remember when he tapped out for a breather, when he decided he was too tuckered to keep playing? Is that the guy you want on your fantasy team? No chance. I'm not interested to hear. Listen, okay. By the way, Anthony Richardson last year, despite his benching and all the terrible play, he finished 25th in comeback player of the year voting, Ian. That is like the ultimate backhanded compliment, isn't it? When you're the 25th best comeback player of the year. I think
it's like a Razzie with that.
That really is that's a great announcement. It is a Razzie. Daniel Jones, the last time we had a full season of Daniel Jones, granted way back in 2022, he averaged more fantasy points than Richardson did last year. We think Richardson's got all this crazy upside, running, passing threat. I just see a guy who's a threat to get benched every single week. And he torpedoes the value of all the rest of the Colts receivers. Last year, nobody's starting Michael Pittman and Josh Downs and Alec Pierce. Richardson torpedoes, he takes them down with him. I don't want that. Daniel Jones is our guy. Shane Steichen's on the hot seat. He is not going to abide for Anthony Richardson's 48% completion percentage for very many games. He's going to get yanked again if he ends up winning the job. Daniel Jones, let's just hope we can get a version of him that was semi-palatable a few years ago.
It does sound like at least Richardson's healthy enough to be alive in this competition. Stephen Holder did report that he is believed to be fully recovered from his right shoulder setback. Could be on a pitch count of sorts early on in camp, but again, seemed like a situation earlier in the summer where who knows when he was going to be ready. At least Richardson should be suiting up there. So I'm with you. Look, no one's touching these quarterbacks, traditional 1 QB leagues. Maybe we can get excited on the waiver wire eventually, just because, again, Daniel Jones in that 2022 season Charch mentioned, QB 8 finish in fantasy points per game. him. Remember, guys, Saquon Barkley himself dubbed Daniel Jones as Vanilla Vic only a few short years ago. The guy can't scoot. Obviously, Anthony Richardson quite good on the ground as well, even though, yes, the passing sure has a lot of work to be done. So there were a few flashes. Last year had a nice comeback against the Jets. Won 3 of his final 5 starts. Only lost, I think, were from the Broncos and Lions. Understandable enough, but just needs more action. And I tend to be with Charge. Not going to be a long enough leash, I think, to get the best out of the former number 4 overall pick. So let's move on to talk about the New Orleans Saints. Also have 2 quarterbacks vying for the job. Also have 2 quarterbacks that it's going to be hard pressed for either of us to call them good at football. Tyler Shuck, the 2nd round pick, freaking 26 years old at this point, and Spencer Rattler. So Rattler, Charge, was horrendous last year. Okay, just to be nice. I guess that's not nice, but he was. All right. And yes, the offense was all banged up and everything. So I'm not completely throwing him under the bus, but I just think when you have Kellen Moore and a new, regime coming in here, you drafted Tyler Shuck with the top 50 pick in round 2. I feel like he's going to win this battle. What say you?
Yeah, this isn't really a competition, is it? I mean, we saw too much of Spencer Rattler, Jake Haener last year. At one point, mid-game, watching Rattler last year, I voluntarily logged out of all of my Roku apps so I could go back, input my username and password on my TV with my remote because it was better viewing than Spencer Rattler. There's no way that Rattler is in the conversation here. And not that Shuck's going to be great, because I don't think he is. Smart guy, by the way. Double major. But I guess if you're in school for 7 years, you have time to get your master's degree like he did, which, by the way, master's degree in interdisciplinary studies. Ian, do you know what interdisciplinary studies are?
I hurt my brain just trying to figure that one out, Charge. I'm not going to lie.
No, I don't know. I mean, the term discipline master means something different to me than it does to Tyler, I guess. But 7-year college career, just 1 year as a starter and 7 tries at it. He's got a little arm talent. I think he'll be better than Spencer Rattler, and he'll win this job, I think, pretty clearly. Tyler Shuck.
Hopefully, he can just not be horrendous. I'll take below average because we got Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, and Alvin Kamara. All these guys are being priced like this is going to be the worst offense in football, and it very well could be. In fact, if you want to go ahead and look at the kind of implied look-ahead lines that Vegas puts out with all the spreads and everything like that, only the Browns are expecting to score fewer points than the Saints this year. That said, Church, I mean, the difference between some of these teams isn't, I think, as big as we make it out to be. Okay, again, Vegas is projecting the Saints to score an average of 19.2 real-life points per game. The Texans, the Cowboys, and the Vikings are at 22.5. All right. So that's, again, 3.3 more. And over the course of a season, yes, that will make an impact. But man, if Shuck can just be decent, guys, maybe even below average, okay, Olave, Shaheed, and Kamara could be presenting some nice fantasy value there. So we got Kellen Moore, been good more years than not leading these offenses. Again, not expecting a top 10 scoring ranks or anything. Sorry, Cooter Doodle, but maybe Shuck can get a little bit out of this group. Let's talk about the last one. Maybe, we did not save the best for last year, Charge. It's the Browns QB1 battle. Whoever's updating that old Tim Couch jersey and just putting the names, I think he's going to have even more work to do by the time this season is done. So we got Joe Flacco. He's already got a spot on there. Kenny Pickett, Shedeur Sanders, and Dylan Gabriel figure it out. Kind of lost in that Deontay Johnson tell-off from a couple of weeks ago, Charge, where he was talking about kind of tapping him out of one game because he was cold and this and that going on, was the fact that Deontay said he actually expects Kenny Pickett to be the one that they give the job to first. Again, remains to be seen how long he's going to be able to hold on to it. I would expect at least 3 of these quarterbacks to get starts this year, but I do tend to think Pickett gets the first crack at this. Flacco, I think, is the best option for it, but it just makes more sense for the Browns to try to see if they can find something in Pickett. What say you?
I think the winner in this Browns quarterback competition, humanity. When Deshaun Watson never sees a football field again, that's your ultimate winner and maybe the best case scenario out of Cleveland right now. I think the best storyline would be Shedeur Sanders is awesome in training camp. He beats out Flacco and Pickett. He beats out Dylan Gabriel, himself a reach, by the way, who went 2 rounds before him. And Gabriel not really in the conversation, I don't think, of Cleveland's as a Cleveland starter, 6-year starter, never developed a downfield passing attack, lots of checkdowns. I don't think he's going to do it. But if Sanders can beat out all of them, he'll have also beat out the solemn and glum Cleveland executives who could not muster a smile when they selected Shedeur Sanders in the draft. Ian, you know what I'm talking about, right? When they selected Sanders and they cut to the war room and everybody's like,
it was a funeral.
Yeah, it really was, right? And Sanders, look, he's got legit arm talent, not a cannon, but good mechanics, excellent accuracy. A lot of people thought he should be the first player taken in the draft. I would love to see the Sanders resurrection. I think it would be great drama. It'd be great talking points. I think at some point he gets an opportunity to start for this team this year.
Again, my comp for Shedeur Sanders was Courage the Cowardly Dog, the old Cartoon Network character. And I really don't mean that to be that much of a dick, okay? Courage constantly found himself in really scary, tough spots. That Colorado offensive line was horrendous. Usually still made good things happen with it, okay? No, Courage, I mean, it's a very small dog. It's not exactly the most athletically gifted or, beast or anything like that. But again, generally made things work, came out in the clutch. Again, I do think the fact that Shedeur went round 5 is a giant red flag if you still are holding out hope here. Also, don't love the fact that Cleveland has never produced a great quarterback career. Bernie Kosar back in the day, maybe even that's a little hard to call great. Started off Baker, didn't keep Baker. That's its own mistake and story there. But again, I'm with you. Rooting for Shedeur. Obviously, I've been put in a tough situation. Maybe hasn't always helped himself with some of the interview tactics and this and that, but would be a lot of fun again to see him prove all these naysayers wrong. That said, Charge, for fantasy purposes, we should want Joe Flacco to get this job as soon as possible, because even though no one can quite help our fantasy teams like Jameis Winston, Joe Flacco might be the next best thing. Over these past 2 years, 13 full games, he's averaged 283 passing yards per game. That would lead the entire NFL, all right? Goff's at 270, Burrow's at 267. Flacco got off that couch and said, screw it, I'm going to sling this thing around. And at the end of the day, man, 7 different games with 300-plus passing yards. I mean, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes only have 8 over these past 2 years. So Joe Flacco, again, don't think he's going to exactly lead the Browns back to the playoffs or anything, but maybe can get the most out of Jerry Jeudy, Deontay Johnson, Cedric Tillman, and that whole gang of pass catchers. So again, guys, those have been our quarterback battles we're looking out for. Now we're going to talk about some, I think, more fantasy relevant running backs. First, though, a quick word to our friends over at Premier National Sports. Guys, Premier National Sports is here to help you, a friend, a relative, any sort of high school athlete looking to take their talents to the next level, get ingrained and figure out this wild, wild west landscape that is NIL. Fantastic opportunity. Now you get to go into college, play football, get your scholarship, and actually get some of that money that you're helping earn. But again, who the freaking knows? Who knows what's going on in terms of that landscape with the little guidelines? So why not go try to trust an organization like Premier National Sports and go make as much money as possible. So again, if you, maybe someone you know, friend, family, whatever, Premier National Sports, guys, that's where you should be going to. It is a trusted recruiting NIL resource for high school athletes and their families. Again, helping high school athletes take their game to the next level with personalized recruiting strategies and NIL education. Check them out if you haven't yet. You can get in touch with their team at premiernationalsports.com. Running back battles chart, and we got one that I have a feeling you might have a horse in the race with. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars. We saw Liam Cohen bring out a lot of good in Bucky Irving. I'm not going to give him all the credit when Bucky's breaking 4 tackles and crossing field. I'm not so sure that Liam Cohen's play call had a lot to do with it. That said, we got Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, and Bayshaw Tootin, someone who has been getting a lot of love here in the fantasy streets. So thoughts on this battle and who you've been putting a chip on in early fantasy drafts?
Well, it's not Travis Etienne. I can tell you that much. Avoided tackle rate, second worst in the league last year at 11%, 3.7 yards per carry. He gives you nothing more than that offensive line will produce. Tank Bigsby, as I think you already know, Ian, because we talked many times last year, he's going to be Liam Cohen's next Bucky Irving. You already connected the dots for me. I am really optimistic about Bigsby. Bigsby is a really good back that has been painfully misused to this point. Over Bigsby's 2 years, among runners with at least 200 carries, Bigsby ranks 6th in yards after contact, 4th in avoided tackle rate, 10th in rushes per touchdown. I mean, the dude's a great power back. Do I think that Tank Bigsby's going to turn into a 28 carry a game guy? No, but Is Bigsby going to earn his way onto the field more? I think he absolutely is. And the other wild card, as you mentioned, Bashal Tutin's really interesting. Freak athlete, stronger than a guy his size ever really should be. Some explosive play, a lot of explosive plays at Virginia Tech. Combine star, plenty of productivity at Virginia Tech. Wasn't like somebody that was only on the field for a third of the plays and made something special happen when he did get the ball. They used him as something of a workhorse. So yeah, I see this thing developing over time as a 1-2 punch with Tutin and Bigsby getting the touchdowns, baby.
Maybe ETN, a little bit better help from the injury gods, was dealing with hamstring and shoulder injuries. But man, really just ever since having that Liz Frank issue out of Clemson, I mean, for my money's worth, the Charch, and, I've been watching college football quite a bit over the past, 25 plus years. Saquon Barkley and Travis Etienne were the two scariest guys I ever saw play my Buckeyes. But unfortunately, again, haven't seen that sort of one-hitter quitter home run speed from Etienne for quite some time, even before the aforementioned injury issues at the beginning of last year. So with Bigsby, yeah, man, one of the best pure runners of the football, you could say, in the league last year. Pull up any kind of advanced rushing efficiency chart you want with those missed tackles, yards after contact. You're going to see Bucky and Tank Bigsby up in that upper right-hand corner doing their thing. So certainly could become that two-back set, because as good as Bigsby is at running the football, there might not be anyone worse at catching the football. So I think that's where the allure can come in with Tutin. I'm curious on your thoughts here with Liam Cohen, though, Charles, because again, I've been poking fun a little bit about, oh man, Mike Evans wasn't good until Liam Cohen got there. Of course, that's ridiculous. But that said, he did do some good things. And the one thing that I did notice that I will try to give Liam Cohen some credit for is creating those, rushing yards before contact. Because we do see consistently the Ravens, the Bills, the Eagles, these really well-coached teams, and yes, good offensive lines as well, mobile quarterbacks, constantly lead the league in terms of RB rushing yards before contact. But we've seen the Lions, and last year we saw the Buccaneers with a 7th place finish, still managed to get that job done, even though they have these pocket passers who probably aren't creating the same sort of gravity in the read option game. So that's been the problem with Jacksonville, man. 32nd and 25th in yards before contact per carry. Are you bullish, I should say, on Liam Cohen really turning this Jaguars run game into something lethal?
All right. It's not a big resume. It's a thin one. We've got 1 year as a play caller and head coach. And, but it was an exceptionally good year. Look what he did for Baker Mayfield, put him on the best year of his career. I love the way that he developed talent. And you feel like if last year is anything to learn, if there's anything to learn from Liam Cohen, it's that he finds the way to get the ball into the hands of his best players. And we saw that last year. And eventually it was Bucky Irving who earned time and earned more balls, but it was also the wide receivers. And we looked at early season, that offense was humming with the best players that they had on the field. And I think we're going to see the Jaguars do that again. Jaguars absolutely, to me, in play, Ian, tell me if you agree, as an opportunity to be the most improved offense in the NFL this year.
Yeah. It's them or the Bears. And honestly, again, mentioning those Vegas look-ahead lines, those are the two teams with the biggest projected jumps. Not exactly saying they're going to be these top 10 groups, but it would make sense. Hasn't always been the case. I was looking back at some fellow Sean McVay disciples. And to Cohen's credit, he went from Los Angeles to Tampa Bay. He made it happen for a year. So he has proven this, right? But, for every Kevin O'Connell, there's a Zach Robinson, finished 13th in scoring last year. There's a Zach Taylor who couldn't do anything with the Bengals until he had Burrow and Chase going on. Thomas Brown was once Sean McVay disciple. What's he going to do? Yes. Okay, he's going to lead the second worst offense with the Panthers. Even Matt LaFleur, man, his first year with the Titans, they ranked 27th in scoring. So again, maybe it's just a situation where Liam needs a year or two to get his culture in there and get his guys this or that. Wouldn't exactly expect top 5 scoring unit fireworks, but certainly seems like they are, taking steps in the right direction. Not sure I can say the same about the Dallas Cowboys, though, Charge. This is a situation where when I look at this offense, man, I want to believe. I actually am sadly a Cowboy fan. Now, I am also 32 years young, so I've seen approximately 3 playoff wins in my life. I didn't get those Super Bowls that Dwayne McFarland and these guys got to see back in the day, okay? Right. So very much sad here. And when I want to be positive and optimistic about this offense, because they have Dak Prescott healthy, hopefully, after tearing his hamstring off his bone. What could go wrong there? We have a new head coach, Brian Schottenheimer, but, Schottenheimer was already in that building for the last 2 years. Yeah. This offensive line hasn't been the same in past years. Okay, they added a first rounder, but you also had a future Hall of Famer retire. I mean, are we literally just saying, Church, in the year 2025, we got George Pickens, top 5 heights? I don't know. I'm not saying that. I don't think so. And I look at this backfield and I see Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders, who have both been horrible. Jaden Blue, who is quote unquote borderline lazy, as we're finding out. Like, I'm just wondering, man, is the answer to this backfield just no? Because I don't like any of the candidates.
This team might have the lowest run percentage in the league this year. If they're based on where the talent lies, that should be the case here. Between Miles Sanders, Javonte Williams, and Jaden Blue, if I have to go into a Sunday starting those guys, I'd rather spend my Sunday drinking a glass of fire ants. There's nothing good to be had here. I mean, Miles Sanders, God bless him for cashing out after his 2022 season with Philly, because he needed to get paid there, because the rest of his career has been mundane at best. 2 awful years in Carolina, and Chuba Hubbard just blew past him in the same offense last year. Javonte Williams, am I supposed to believe? And there are people making this case, and I'm sure you've heard it, Ian. They're like, okay, when you have the ACL, it's not the ACL year. It's the year after the year after the year after. That's when you're really right from the ACL, because last year he was so mundane. 29th in avoided tackle rate, 31st in first down rate, dead last in yards after carry among starters. That was Javonte Williams last year. And then you mentioned Jaden Blue, total unknown. I don't see many people that think that, although an explosive athlete with good footwork, and he can catch a little bit, but super slight of build. I mean, he's never going to be a workhorse, right? And so I don't see a solution here. And I think the best thing, if you start any of those guys, the best things you could hope is like a carry from the 1 yard line that results in a touchdown on your Sunday. That's it.
I've been poking fun at this second year removed from the injury stuff too. Okay, so is there a certain number of touches Javonte needs for someone to knock his knee back into the right place? Like, you're telling me 400, 500 extra touches against NFL defenses, taking contact, getting hit, that's a good thing for his knee getting better all of a sudden? So again, I have seen certain doctors talk about the Achilles, which was not this case, but Achilles injuries, apparently there is data at the second year removed, you can't expect a bit more mobility. So maybe for J.K. Dobbins, who we're going to talk about a little bit later, that could be a good thing. But yeah, I mean, I really struggle, especially when this isn't a Josh Jacobs, a Derrick Henry, or a Saquon Barkley going from a really bad offense to a really good offense. That Broncos offensive line finished ranked as PFF's second best unit last year. Cowboys group really has been a shell of themselves in recent years, particularly in run blocking, guys. Last 3 years, 20th, 25th, and 27th in that aforementioned RB rush yards before contact stat. So honestly, Charles, this seems like a situation where, look, they're all cheap enough, like the Jaguars backs. If you want to use a later round pick on a Javonte Williams, last round pick on Miles Sanders, go right ahead, I guess. But man, if there was a team where I wonder about Antonio Gibson or someone getting cut, at the end of August and joining this squad, I mean, this would be it. Yeah,
you're right. This would be a perfect landing spot for somebody. Washington too, by the way, would be maybe even better, but we'll talk about that a little later. This is a spot where somebody gets cut and ends up as the new starter, maybe even week 1. I don't see going to war here. And here's the thing: if you're the Cowboys, you saw this coming, and you're facing like a legendary draft class at running back, and you couldn't throw a freaking 5th rounder on somebody who'd be materially better than any of these people. This is one of the most baffling misfires in the draft that we had all April was the Cowboys not finding more help in the draft, I think.
They didn't have to take Hampton at 12. You didn't have to trade up for Genty. But come on, you had several picks. Yeah. Just don't wait until the end of round 5 to get a guy that now, again, you're apparently hating his work habits. Like, that seems like something you probably could have found out during the entire, 3 months that you were supposed to be studying these guys. So now we got Jerry Jones openly making fun of Dak and Micah and their contract stuff going on.
What could go
great
wrong?
Vibes going on in Dallas. What could go wrong, Church? But let's talk about an organization that has been, a lot more consistent than the Cowboys. That Pittsburgh Steelers, 9-8 year after year after year. Mike Tomlin, the standard is a standard. All due respect there. Really does seem like this year, though, very interesting, payouts going to. Got Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, old man TJ Watt getting banked. So good for them. And I don't think they're going to be a bad team by any stretch of the imagination. But I started looking at this running back battle, and we got Jalen Warren and Caleb Johnson. And okay, you mentioned the Washington Commanders. I hear you. At the same time, Charge, the Commanders, even though I don't think Brian Robinson or Austin Eckler are as good as Warren and Caleb Johnson, that's an offense that we fully expect to be among the league's top 10 best. The Steelers, if we find out that they finish this year 29th in scoring, I wouldn't be surprised. So why go out of our way to draft either of Jalen Warren or Caleb Johnson?
Well, I'll tell you why, because Caleb Johnson's really good. I loved him at Iowa, All-American. That offense could not pass. Totally non-functional passing game at Iowa. Every opponent knew the only way Iowa was going to score any points is it all had to come through Caleb Johnson, and they still couldn't stop him. 1,500 rushing yards and 21 touchdowns last year. And is he a special back? No, but is he a really tough inside runner who's going to break a bunch of tackles? He's got surprising wiggle. I mean, I like Caleb Johnson. I see double-digit touchdown upside for him, because that's not who Jaylen Warren is. I don't see scenarios where Jaylen Warren's going to suddenly start picking up a bunch of carries inside the 5, which he's never gotten to this stage of his career in a meaningful number. But Caleb Johnson's built exactly for that. So I see Caleb as a guy, wouldn't be surprised if he hits like the 10 touchdown threshold here, turns into somebody who's a flex starter in many games. And I think it's just a matter of how quickly he integrates into the offense and how much trust the Steelers give Caleb Johnson early in the season. But by the end of the year, I really do think we're going to be right back to a 1-2 punch with the touchdowns coming to Caleb Johnson.
I guess my point is, I don't think there's going to be too many touchdowns to be had here. I see, again, this old immobile quarterback, maybe Jaylen Warren getting those checkdowns could be that guy. So I will say, just my last kind of hesitation with this group, and Matthew Freeman and I were talking about this on our handcuff show. I'd like you guys to go check that out if you haven't already. But even if something happened to Jaylen Warren, even if something happened to Caleb Johnson, we've seen this Arthur Smith show before. I really do think guys like Cordero Patterson and Kenneth Gainwell will continue to be integrated, as opposed to either Caleb or Jaylen Warren, again, getting the chance to take over and be this workhorse RB1. So that said, Najee Harris last year, 299 touches, RB25 and PPR points per game. Yeah. I don't see why Caleb couldn't do his best impression of that. Again, just not overly enthused about this overall offensive environment going on in Pittsburgh. But I've been wrong before, Charge. We will see what happens. More running back storylines we will talk about, though, guys, right after a quick word to our friends over at Mike's Hard Lemonade. Wait, how many leagues are you in this year? 5? 6? More? Look, if you're deep in the fantasy trenches like us, you already know not to win it all. You've got to go hard. And guys, Fantasy HQ, powered by Mike's Hard Lemonade, is the ultimate tool for fantasy sickos. From managing all your fantasy leagues in one place to receiving personalized expert advice, dominate your fantasy season by using Fantasy HQ and enjoying a Mike's Hard Lemonade while sweating your matchups on Sundays. Check out Fantasy HQ at fantasylife.com and find Mike's nearest you at mikeshard.com. Nobody makes lemonade like Mike's. Mike's is hard, so is prison. Don't drive drunk. Premium malt beverage with flavors, all registered trademarks used under license by Mike's Hard Lemonade Company in Chicago, Illinois. Love me some Mike's Hard. Don't love me this New York Football Giants offense, though, Charts. But again, where there's an offense we don't like, where there's uncertainty in the backfield, usually lies potential value in fantasy land. So we got Tyrone Tracy with incoming fourth rounder, Kendall Valenzuela's favorite player ever, the Arizona State Sun Devil himself, Cam Scatabo, who, man, if you guys caught him on New Year's Day this last year, arguably the best singles, putting the team on his back performance that I saw in the entire 2024 college football season. So Tracy versus Scatabo, again, Church, we don't like the offense, but both guys do have that 3-down skill set we like to target. Have you been putting a chip on either one of these guys?
A little bit on both, actually. Yeah. I feel like we're buying low on Giants. There's an opportunity here for Tyrone Tracy. Well, whole offense should get better, right? Okay. We're not going to see Tim Boyle this year. We're not going to see Drew Lock. We're not going to see Tommy DeVito. So that's 3 wins for the Giants offense right there. We've got Russell Wilson, and if something goes wrong, Jameis Winston is not the end of the world. They're better than all those guys. Tracy could be dramatically improved. If you remember, he's a converted wide receiver, only had 146 career rushes in college and just 192 last year, learning on the job. He's got room to get better. And there were some splashes where Tracy, I thought, looked really good. And he lacks bulk. He's not going to be touchdown guy. And obviously that's going to be Cam Scatabo. And who's not rooting for him? This is the most Mike Allstott we've seen since Mike Allstott in a much more compact frame. I mean, and he'll be the obvious goal line runner here. He's so much fun. Who doesn't want to have? Okay, look, Ian, we don't talk about this enough. At the end of the day, fantasy football should be fun. And winning is fun, but so is having players on your roster who you love and that you want to see get the ball. Cam Scatterbo is that guy. Nobody's going to run harder for him. Nobody's going to run with more determination than he will. And is it going to translate into 25 carries a game? No, probably not. But I still think he's going to get goal line work, and he's just going to be one of those guys you're going to have fun with having on your roster. So I'm super enthusiastic about Scatterbo, and still like Tracy to see a jump from last year. And he's going to be the pass catching guy as well. Probably, he was a converted receiver. Tyron Tracy should get more receptions. We kept saying that about Antonio Gibson. It never happened, but it should happen here, right, Ian?
It hasn't happened yet for Antonio Gibson, Charge. Some of us are still very much on that potential bandwagon. I haven't jumped off just yet. We might be flying off a mountain, but one day. No, man, I'm with you. I want to root for Scatterbo. I mean, again, just the way this dude runs, it's like he takes every, would-be tackler attempt personally. I'm just worried if it's going to translate now against grown men, finely tuned athletic machines, not Pac-12, cast off. So again, we'll see what happens, but it's this offense that just gives me the concern. Similar sentiment with the Steelers, but arguably even worse. So I still think Russell Wilson's a top 30, 25 quarterback on the planet for what it's worth. But once you actually get in a real matchup, man, certainly not going to be a situation, as we saw in the wild card against Lamar Jackson, you're still bringing a knife to a gunfight there. So this Giants offense, though, Charge, since 2020, here are their ranks in scoring offense. 31st, 15th in 2022. That was a fun time. Yeah. 2 years since, 30th and 31st. This year, we got Russ under center, and their projection, drum roll please, 30th. So again, on the one hand, you can't really get any worse. On the other hand, I have a hard time, again, expecting too much improvement. This schedule is also miserable, man, just from more of a real life perspective. I mean, they go Commanders, Cowboys, Chiefs, Chargers, Saints. There's one. Eagles, Broncos, 49ers, Bears, Packers, Lions, Patriots, maybe two before their bye. It's a rough situation. So again, generally still Malik Neighbors and then everyone else. But hey, again, both these guys being priced well outside the top 30 running backs. I don't hate throwing darts at, to Charch's point, either guy, particularly when you are going zero RB and just need bodies at the position. Now we've talked about some gross offenses. Let's end things with a good one, at least for the running back group, Charch. We do have the Denver Broncos, RJ Harvey versus J.K. Dobbins. Of course, wouldn't put it past Sean Payton to maybe keep Jaleel McLaughlin, Andrick Estime somewhat involved as well. But this is a situation where when you do look at Sean Payton's running backs by year, he produced a top 18 rusher in terms of PPR points per game, 14 of 15 seasons with the Saints. However, Javonte couldn't crack the top 30 in either of the past two. RJ Harvey, J.K. Dobbins, both, Charge? Because I'm kind of bet on both.
I'm going to go neither, probably, but I'd lean Dobbins. Let's talk it through for a minute. For Harvey, fantasy people, we always want the new guy to get a shot immediately when there hasn't been past success. Or we always want the new guy. But coaches are so much slower to move typically. And I think that's going to be the case here with a bunch of veterans that know Sean Payton's system already. I worry that we're not going to get enough meaningful touches from Harvey for a very long time. Now, Harvey's got some great traits that could translate to the NFL game. Quick feet, super elusive, tons of carries and productivity at UCF. But the pass protection was awful, and he's short and small, and that could be a factor that works against him getting on the field early. And then there's J.K. Dobbins. I like J.K. By the way, full name, Jacalyn. I don't know if everybody knew that. Jacalyn is your JK. Last year's runner-up for Comeback Player of the Year, J.K. Dobbins. And he was leading that for a long time until he got hurt week 12. And then everything sort of went off the rails for him. He missed a month. And then, his play after the injury was not great. And we think of J.K. Dobbins as ancient. He's 26 years old. Metrics, decent last year. Not awesome, like middle of the pack, 14th in rushing yards over expectation. But you know what he can do? J.K. Dobbins can pass block. He's awesome at that. And Javonte Williams was their designated pass blocker. He ranked 8th in PFF pass blocking last year. Dobbins, 4th best in pass blocking. I just think Dobbins is going to be the guy who starts the season as the veteran, a good runner who performed well before his MCL injury last year. And it's just going to take a long time for Harvey to get meaningful reps into this offense, I believe. We'll see how it plays out.
It'd be fun if we got the, Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara 2025 version where Dobbins is more of that early down guy and Harvey just takes all those receptions, which have still existed in this Peyton offense. They haven't had a good pass catching running back, but that hasn't stopped them in Denver from being top 4 in RB receptions in each of the past 2 seasons. But to Charge's point, don't discount the potential for Dobbins to really be a thorn in the side on third downs. I've already seen a few, just beat reporter speculations about that. And man, again, as much as Harvey has shown the ability to catch passes, it's not like we're talking about someone with 50, 60 in a single season. He caught between 19 and 22 in each of his past 3 years at UCF. So I know college offenses, are different. And we did hear Sean Payton say he has a vision for the guy, but Dobbins really could be a thorn in the side here. So I know people just continue to go back. It's like the Austin Eckler thing against the Packers. Like, oh, well, look at this 50-yard run where Dobbins slowed down there at the end. J.K. Dobbins last year had as many 30-yard rushes as Devon Achane and Jahmyr Gibbs guys. So yeah, maybe his top speed, 50, 60 yards downfield isn't as good as those guys, but still very capable of picking up some big ones when he has the chance. I actually love where Dobbins is going in drafts too, because he's next to guys like Ramondre Stevenson and even the Trey Bensons and Tyler Algiers of the world. And I think Dobbins has a much better chance than at least those latter two of earning his own standalone value. So good stuff on those RBs. Do have a handful of wide receiver battles we want to get to here on the Fantasy Life Show. Time for quarter 4, everybody. Get those 4s up. We got 4 more battles to get through here, Charge, starting off with Packers wide receiver 1. Last year, there really wasn't one. We had Tucker Kraft, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, and Dontavian Wicks all finished between 70 and 76 targets. That said, Christian Watson out of the picture. They used the first-round pick on Matthew Golden. Also been hyping up Jaden Reed. Do you think one of these guys can actually step up and just go ahead and dominate the passing game?
No, I don't, Ian. I don't think, ever since Devontae Adams left, every year the right answer has been none of the above emerging as a number 1 receiver for the Packers. And I think that's going to be the case here as well. Matthew Golden looks promising. And again, we fantasy players, we love our rookies. But for Matt LaFleur, he's got all these proven receivers, even if not dominating, who are veterans who know his system. You mentioned Dobbs, Reed, Wicks. By the way, your target leader last year was Dontavian Wicks. And by the way, elite run blocker, so he stays in the game a lot. That's how he ended up being the target leader, I think. The right answer to the question to me about who's Green Bay's number 1 is just take Jordan Love. Go draft Jordan Love. You don't have to worry about it. He's one of my favorite bounce back players for this year. I'm just avoiding here, and I am not going to. I don't believe that you can correctly speculate whether anybody's going to emerge in this offense.
Jordan Love only 1 year removed from a legit top 5 finish in fantasy points per game. I'm with you. He's awesome with someone I've been targeting plenty, particularly because, these prices are cheap enough where you can build those later stacks if you are getting sniped earlier on in the draft. So I'm a little bit higher, I think, on Jaden Reed personally. Hey, he just led all wide receivers in rushing yards. First one without the last name Samuel to do that since 2018, I believe. So there's a good player in there, but again, a situation where can I confidently project him for 100 plus targets? No. And that is a problem when we are playing fantasy football. So good stuff on the Packers. What about the Texans, though, Charge? We have questions about the O-line, but I think we agree C.J. Stroud's still someone that we do believe to be a good thrower of the football. We know Nico Collins is the number 1, but this could be an offense that has more than one fantasy relevant wide receiver. Jaden Higgins, Christian Kirk, Jalen Noel. Any of them, getting you excited?
I'm kind of interested in Higgins because he's got this clear path to playing time on the outside. Tank Dell, no way he plays this year, and we're just keeping our fingers crossed Tank Dell ever plays again, honestly. John Mechie looks like he's just going to be an ordinary receiver. I don't see anything special there. Higgins, round 2 draft equity, highly productive at Iowa State, 350 targets in 4 years and a 3% drop rate. That is fantastic. Super rangy, the long limbs, the big hands, the 80-inch wingspan. It's like basketball numbers here. I feel like he's got the clear path to playing time. And at the slot, then we got the logjam in the slot. Christian Kirk, Jalen Noel, both best used as slot receivers. Kirk flamed out in Jacksonville, but had been productive a few years before that. He's the veteran, though, and he probably walks in with the early advantage. I keep saying that. That's the recurring theme. So, like, you'd think I know anything else. It's all that I keep talking about here. Probably starts the season as the veteran. Noel, though, super dynamic, lightning fast footwork, the acceleration. He ran the 4.39 at the 40 at the combine. Eventually Kirk probably just gets outplayed by him, but I don't know. Is it Thanksgiving by then? So for me, I'm out on Kirk. I'm out on Noel. I'm interested in Higgins because he's got that clear path to playing time.
Higgins is that guy that I'm with you. I would be throwing the dart at in the wide receiver 5 range. As you guys can see on the screen here over on YouTube TV, wherever you're checking us out, we appreciate you. Fantasy Life projections. You can check out fantasylife.com for all those. But yes, even though Christian Kirk does have the second most projected targets right now, I mean, Noel would be coming for that job. Like, Higgins is the one that we can certifiably be feeling good about on the opposite outside with Nico Collins. So that'd be where my chip is going. But more than anything, guys, just keep on drafting Nico Collins, someone I cannot wait to continue getting here at the end of round 1 in drafts of all shapes and sizes. Last one, Charge. This has been a bit of a divisive topic here in the fantasy world to start the offseason. Travis Hunter, number 2 overall pick, someone that we all believe to be exceptionally talented, won the freaking Heisman Trophy for crying out loud. But also we have to worry about, for the first time pretty much in fantasy football history, if this guy is actually going to have a true full-time role on offense or if his defensive presence is going to take too much away from that. What are you thinking here with Mr. Travis Hunter?
Oh, I love him. I'm so excited for his pairing with Brian Thomas. It's going to open up things for Brian Thomas, too, who we absolutely love. And Hunter brings basically every skill you want in a wide receiver into one guy. You get hands, you get footwork, you get speed, you get after the catch determination that only a handful of players have got, like Justin Jefferson. But here's the thing I love best about Hunter. Fearless in traffic. He's got that defensive player's mentality about contact. He is not worried about running through the middle of the defense with 4 guys around him because he's been on the other side of that. He doesn't mind getting hit. He welcomes contact. I'm not worried about the playing time for Hunter. When they're going to rest him is on running downs. When it's 3rd and 2, Hunter's is going to be resting. I don't care about 3rd and 2 for Hunter. I'll give that up to keep him on the field. And to my earlier point, Ian, fantasy football should be fun. And what's going to be more fun than having Travis Hunter on your team? He's going to be a blast to watch on both sides of the ball. And if you're in a state that bets. Bet Travis Hunter to win Offensive Rookie of the Year and Defensive Rookie of the Year. That's paying like 100 to 1. And man, if that comes together, this season is going to be so much fun.
I feel like writers are just going to get behind that storyline, whether or not he even fully deserves to win both ones. That's just a fun thing to go ahead and write in. As Church says, fantasy football is fun. We want to keep it fun for you guys here on the Fantasy Life Show. We hope you'll continue to join us here throughout the offseason. So thank you, Charge. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe, all that business if you're into that kind of thing. So for Charge, for producer Matt, for producer Kelsey, I'm Ian. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, take care, everybody.